So let me hit you with the absolute wildest, most skin-crawling sequence in this episode, in my opinion. And we see Henry drinking himself into oblivion, and his drinking buddy is none other than Sophia, who just happens to be the man in yellow, as we all know. But it's not the fact that he's drinking with her. It's the fact that we all see him now consuming the blood from, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to him and how he's going to die, but there is no secret that Henry's going to die, and it's probably going to be torture. While Sophia's out here playing this sadistic game of dress up, we also see her messing with Henry's mind and asking him questions like, do you ever wonder if this is all a dream? So in my opinion, I think we are officially watching a supernatural predator sit here and toy with his food. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the episode of From Season 4, Episode 6, The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. So let's look at the overarching theme of this episode, which takes another bold step away from the monsters, but it gives us everything else that we're looking for because it's weaponizing everybody's fears now. And we got that massive lore drop about how the town takes your nightmares and physically makes them manifest into reality. At least in the woods that happens. Like, let's take a look at Fatima and how her fear is starting to manifest into a reality, because we see that she's completed the golem. So now she's finally getting a chance to explain this to Ellis, and she's telling him that she needs this golem because it helps her believe in magical things and all the stories from her father when she was a kid, and how she really just needs this to basically make her feel better. While this may seem innocent enough, we really don't know what's going to come of this entire golem situation, because I doubt that it's going to be anything good, especially for the people of the colony house, but I'm very curious to see how this golem situation plays out. And you guys let me know down in the comments how you think this golem situation is going to come out now that all the important parties at least know about it. And then sticking with the theme of the town kind of manifesting its nightmares, Tabitha finally reveals to Boyd and Kenny the dolls that attacked them in episode 5 were really her dolls, and how they were taken by some man who we still don't really know who this man is yet. But they were taken by this man and thrown into the lake because he was afraid of them and they were giving him nightmares. And now we see them coming back, and they killed poor Roger and they burned half of Patty's face off. So it seems as though these nightmares or these people's fears are clearly starting to manifest in physical ways. And like Donna was worried about, they don't even have to worry about just the monsters anymore. Now they have these big dolls to worry about. Now they have anybody who potentially goes into the woods, but maybe in the entire town, their fear is going to be manifested into something real. How do we protect them from that? And that's clearly what gives her her heart attack, because she's stressed the fuck out and she's worried about everybody in the town. And she's clearly not giving herself any grace in this moment, because she's so focused on everybody else that she stressed herself to the point where she has a heart attack. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. And on top of that and everything else, we have Father Khatri, who makes his way back, and he's talking to Boyd through whatever subconscious Boyd is manifesting him through. And maybe he's Boyd's nightmare, who knows? But he confirms one big thing for us, and that is the fact that the town and the people in it are running out of time. We heard the boy in white say this earlier in the season, that they're running out of time. He told Tabitha and Henry this in the forest. And what does all of that mean? I think that, especially with Henry drinking the blood of Sophia, that something big is coming. And I know I've been saying that for a few episodes, but something clearly big is getting ready to happen. And I think this town is going to face a big test. And thank goodness they'll maybe have everybody intact to help keep them together. But we'll see how all of that unfolds. But one thing I do want to point out that Father Khatri said to Boyd was that the tip of the spear thing. And that clearly triggered Boyd's mind to go back to season 2 when he was with Martin, and he said the same thing. Or maybe it wasn't the exact same thing. I can't remember the exact words that Martin used when he was on the wall. Either way, Boyd's memory is triggered in this moment to go back to that memory. And I think it's all just to remind us that the monsters in the tunnels are just the beginning of everything, because it's the tip of the spear, or whatever phrase you would like to use. Now let's take a look at these background details that could have been missed in this episode, because there was enough chaos going on at any given time, or definitely a lot of tension. So some of this could have been missed. Now let's talk about Sophia a little bit, because while she was in this episode and not necessarily heavily featured, she had a big impact on a lot of things that I think are going to happen moving forward. But we'll start at the bar where she asked Karen if you think this is all a dream. And we know that Martin asked Boyd that exact same question in season 2. And it's funny that that's now coming back up. And it makes you wonder about what the relationship to that question could be. And then also from the clip that was dropped earlier where it looked like she was drinking something red out of that glass, I think it was a really good way to kind of hide things in plain sight about what could be coming, and a lot of foreshadowing, because while she wasn't drinking anything red and it was just a tint of the glass that made it look like she was drinking something red, we definitely saw her later in the episode purposely cut her finger and drip a little bit of her blood inside of Henry's glass. So while she isn't drinking anything red and he isn't either, the symbolism is definitely there because he's drinking quite literally her blood in his alcoholic beverage of choice, which gives him a hit that he will not see coming. And one of the things that was kind of in the background of this episode was the conversation between Julie and Sarah. And while it wasn't terribly important, it did have a little bit of detail in it. We see them up in Sophia's room painting it a different color to purple, and they're just having a little conversation amongst each other about things that they missed and things that they used to like. And Sarah casually mentions, after Julie says that she misses donuts, that she forgot all about donuts. And in my opinion, I think that is kind of foreshadowing to what the town is doing to everybody. Because what if the town is actively making people forget their memories, and the only thing that they remember in the end is their time here in Fromville? And then let's talk about Victor up on the roof, because we saw him up there and he wasn't thinking about jumping, and I didn't think that he was going to think about jumping. But he did tell us a little tale about a guy that did jump from up on the roof because he was going mad. And it makes me wonder if that guy jumped off the roof or was he pushed off the roof, because that could have been a version of Jade, because he said that the guy was going crazy about things that he learned in the town. But the one thing that I do want to point out about Victor that I picked up in this episode was how he's starting to become this protective father figure to Henry. And I think he's reluctant to do that because he's still very much a child in the mind of himself, but he's taken on this role of kind of a protector to a degree, where he's telling Henry about his mom and how she was strong, and they're drawing pictures together. And I think that Victor is trying his best to protect himself, I guess protect his father as well, even though that ship may have sailed, and also protect Henry from the dangers that could be coming. And I think that is the reason why he refused to tell Ethan the story about the whole man in yellow and him eating his mom and all the things that go along with that. And one last thing I want to touch on, and that has to do with Roger's death. And I'm sure we all saw his face sewn up like a doll. And that's a little creepy that the doll sewed his face up and made him a doll as well. But no wonder Donna had a heart attack and passed out, because that's a lot of shit to see at one time and process. And then you have to think about protecting everybody as well. And that's a very unselfish thing to do in that moment, because I'm here to tell you, if that was me, I would definitely be thinking about myself in that moment. And then we see Jade later in the episode when him and Boyd are looking for the cables for Donna, and the guy's face is uncovered, and Jade is just like, oh my God. So that was a pretty funny moment, because Jade kind of tripped out in that moment and he forgot everything that he was supposed to be doing. And speaking of Donna, let's go ahead and touch on that, because I'm sure that we're all glad that she did not die in this episode, because I was pretty pissed off when she had her heart attack and fell on the floor, and that they couldn't find a pulse and let everyone to give up on her, because I just really don't want Donna to die. And she clearly keeps everybody together. And I think whenever she does ultimately pass away, I do think that is going to break the community. And while this would have been an interesting time to do it, I personally didn't think this was the right time to do it, because it just didn't seem right, especially with her coming so close to death in episode 5. But now here we are again in episode 6, and she's kissed with death once again. And this time, actually, I guess somewhat dying and being brought back, because we don't know how long she was actually out. We know it's at least 5 to 7 minutes, but Donna has been faced with death a lot in this season. And it makes me wonder that somebody who's came this close to death this many times, are they actually going to kill her character off? And maybe she actually makes it to the end. And that would honestly wouldn't hurt my feelings. Now, for what I think is going to be my favorite part of this video, let's talk about some of those plot holes, if you want to call them that, because I think some of these holes are left there on purpose, because they're more dangling threads than they are plot holes. And one of them is this suicide mission that Jade and Boyd are clearly going to go on at some point in the near future. We saw the episode kick off with Boyd and Jade arguing about his mushroom trip and, the things that could be in his memories or not be in his memories. And one thing it establishes that while Jade knows that they have to go down and do something with these bones of the kids, which is pretty disgusting in itself, he actually doesn't know in that same moment what he actually has to do once they get to that point, if they make it to that point. He doesn't really know how to complete the story of saving the kids. He just knows it has to do with the kids' bones. And then he has to do a whole lot of convincing in this episode because we learned that he had never actually been down to the basement of the colony house. So this could have all been a dream or just a bad trip. But we do see in the end when Boyd grabs the sledgehammer that there is a door behind that rock wall that they had built there. And it makes me ask the question, who built that rock wall and why did they want to hide that door? Because that is a little bit suspicious in itself, because who doesn't want them to know to go down there? Outside of the man in yellow, who is obviously doesn't want them to know anything. He just kind of wants them to tear each other apart and so he can do his favorite part. Now they open up this path to the tunnels. They kind of works both ways because now the monsters have a direct path to them. So that may come back into play in this season as well, because, you know, doors work two ways. It's not just an entrance. The monsters could come out of that same door that they just uncovered. So maybe the people of the town built that wall so that they couldn't come directly up into the house or whatever was there at that time. So let's just pay attention to that little detail and see how that comes back later. What did you guys think of that episode? What did you guys think about Julie starting to doubt her story walking a little bit? Is that kind of happening on purpose, or is it, you know, maybe just a kid just trying to cope with the powers that she has? Because I don't think that we're done with the whole Julie story walking story yet. And I do think that she's going to have another opportunity to go back and explore that. And I think now that Randall is clearly maybe moving on to doing something different and helpful in the community, maybe Sarah may be her patsy now and may be willing to let her go a little bit further, and or maybe Sarah may be able to story walk too, since she's had experiences in this town as well. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But I don't think we're done just yet with the whole Julie story walking, because it seems like we're going to be revisiting this again, because after all, the man in yellow did tell her that they have to stop meeting this way. And they've only seen each other once since that conversation. So I'm wondering when they're going to see each other again. And what did you guys think about Father Khatri coming back again? That was a surprise moment for me, and I really didn't expect him to come back up in this moment, especially when Boyd was having his emotional conversation with Donna. But it does reveal a lot about how Donna and Boyd really have grown since the time that Boyd has arrived there and the dynamic that they have. But it does make me ask what's coming next, because Donna's going to be coming out of the woods from her heart attack. Boyd and Jada are going to be planning this suicide mission, and it sounds like they think that they have to take everybody down into the tunnels. Now, I'm not sure about that. I don't think they have to take everybody into the tunnels. That just seems a little unrealistic to take, 47 people down into the tunnels when there are only, 7 or 8 holes. So I don't think that's what's going on. I think maybe the bones are going to be used in some type of different way. And I doubt they're a metaphor, but they're going to have to do something with these bones. But I doubt it's going to take 47 people to go down into the tunnels for them to do it. And lastly, we did get our little quick glimpse at Acosta down in the basement. And it seems like she's doing a little bit better now that she's keeping busy. And I do think that there's going to be some type of revelation that comes out of that basement. And you guys let me know what you think Acosta's going to find, because I think she's going to find something that has to do with the original Sophia, which may blow up the man in yellow spot, and that could be dangerous for Acosta, but we'll see what happens with that. But that's just my theory on that, because she's not down there this long. I shouldn't say this long, because it's probably only been a couple of days, but she hasn't been down there this long for no reason. They're keeping her down there, going through everything and organizing everything for a specific reason. And I think that reason will probably reveal itself in the next couple of episodes. But that is all from me. I'm going to toss it to you. What did you guys think about this episode? Let me know what you think is coming in episode 7. I'm not really sure where they're going to go in episode 7, because they have a lot of threads that are out there that they can explore. But I would like for them to explore what's going to happen between Sophia and Henry, because I think whatever happens in that situation, and it would be crazy if Henry has some type of mutation, or maybe he turns directly into one of the monsters, that would really fuck with Victor's head. So we'll see what happens with that. Definitely hope they explore that storyline a little bit more in the next episode, because I'm just really curious to see what's going to happen with that. And then everything else will probably play off of that, because the only other thing that has my peak curiosity right now, because I'm just dying to see how it plays out, is this whole Golem situation, because it's just sitting up in the attic and a few people know about it, but it's going to come back to haunt everybody at some point, in my opinion. But you guys let me know what you think about it. Drop your wildest theories down in the comments, and we'll talk about those later on this week in my next video. And thank you all for coming and watching this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out, and I will see you in the next one.